Texas football slides past conference rival Baylor. A new era begins on the softball field, and soccer defeats Oklahoma at home. All this and more coming up on College Press Box. Good evening and welcome to College Press Box, the most extensive sports coverage on the 40 acres. I'm your host, Bailey Abramowitz, here with Madison Hager. We have a packed show here for you tonight, but we'll start on the football field.
Texas football came into Saturday with a 5-game win streak in their first top 10 placement since 2010. Before the Horns could go into bye week, Texas had to take on Matt Rule and the Baylor Bears. Let's take a look at the highlights. The hero of the Red River Showdown, Cameron Dicker, runs the American flag down the field and the Horns are fired up for the Baylor game. Start off the game, Brewer throws the ball to Mims in the end zone. This will put Baylor up 7-3 in the first. Next we have Bada Bing Bada Bouchelle to Colin Johnson, runs the ball in for a touchdown. Big touchdown for the Horns. This will put them up 12-10. Next, Bouchelle will hand the ball off to Ingram, who will run along the side and then get pushed out along the 5. Next, with the plot twist, little Jordan Humphrey as quarterback running the ball in for a touchdown. The Horns are up 19-10. Now, Bouchelle filling in for Ellinger will throw the ball down intended for Duvernay, but Tejada will say to Nada and will intercept the ball for the Bears. Next, we have Brewer handing the ball off to Hasty, who runs past the Texas defenders but is then knocked out by PJ Locke. And to finish off the game, the last hope for Baylor, this touchdown would tie the game. Brewer throws the ball, but it goes over the end zone. The Texas defense will reign, and the Horns will end up beating Baylor 23-17, and the UT will go into bye week with a 6-game win streak and a number 7 ranking.
TSTV's very own Matt Marinchak was on the field at DKR this weekend to recap Texas's win and to give us more on Sam Ehlinger's injury and Shane Bouchelle's first game of the season.
The 5-1 Texas Longhorns took on the 3-2 Baylor Bears last Saturday at DKR in what Texas thought would be an easy win. Texas was driving down the field until their star quarterback Sam Ehlinger got hurt in the first drive of the game. Stepping in for the injured Sam Ehlinger, Shane Bouchelle had his first game action since last year's Texas Bowl. He's always worried when a backup quarterback is in, but Coach Tom Herman had full confidence in Bouchelle.
And I want to tell the world, Shane Bouchelle is the most engaged, he's the most prepared, he's the most positive coaching backup quarterback I've ever been around. I've been around some really good ones.
Bouchelle struggled at times, but his teammates Colin Johnson and Cavante Ingram, along with the rest of the offense, were able to help him overcome these challenges. Both Johnson and Ingram had high praise on what kind of player Bouchelle is.
The way he just shows up to practice every day giving his best because that's all he knows. That's the type of person he is. First off, he gains the players' respect, like myself. It gains, the coaches' respect. There's unreal praise for Shane in the locker room after the game just by Coach Herman and all the rest of the guys. But it's literally just the epitome of a great teammate and someone great to have, on your side. So.
We had no doubt, Bouchelle, he's the real deal. He practiced hard. I don't think nobody practiced harder than him. And crazy that might sound, so, it's just a next man up mentality.
Here's Bouchelle on coming in for the injured Sam Ehlinger.
I'm just talking with my family and my teammates, they've always said just stay ready and be the best teammate that you can be. And that's what I've tried to do since fall camp and since this moment here.
Coming off their biggest win of the season, Texas Longhorns struggled against the Baylor Bears. Part of this is due to the fact that Shane Bouchelle was in at quarterback for the injured Sam Ehlinger. But luckily for Texas, Colin Johnson and Cavante Ingram were able to carry the team on their backs and lead Texas to the victory. From DKR, I'm Matt Marinchak, TSTV Sports.
This evening, we have football analysts Sean and Nick joining us on the show. Welcome back, guys. Texas went 1-0 this week against Baylor. So would you guys classify this as a disappointing performance or a scrappy win?
I don't think it's fair to call it a disappointing performance. It certainly wasn't an impressive win. Anytime you have to bring in your backup quarterback on the 12th play of the game after your starter goes down with an unexpected injury, your offense isn't going to perform as they have in recent weeks. I also think every team has that week every season where you don't play up to your standard. That's natural. Again, every single team has that a couple times in the season. It was a tough day in college football, so I think what mattered most for Texas was just getting out of DKR with the victory. They head into the bye week. They now have 2 weeks to prepare, and if they need Shane to play against Oklahoma State, if they don't think Sam's going to be ready ready. They now have 2 weeks to get their game plan ready for Bouchel to run the offense.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Nick. With Ellinger going down as early as did, the 12th play of the game, it makes the game more difficult than you expect going into it. The encouraging sign for Texas, how the team rallied after that slow start. They started feeding the ball to Keontae Ingram a little bit more. He finished with 111 yards, and the defense holding the Bears offense down in the fourth quarter. They're scoreless. Now, it was, like you said, a bad week for other teams across the nation in the top 10, Georgia, Penn State, and Washington all losing. So Texas, all they needed to do was escape the stadium with a win, and that's what they did against this frisky Baylor team, and to go into the bye week bowl eligible at 6-1.
All right, so just like you guys had mentioned, Sam was taken out of the game for a bloody finger, but ended up staying out of the game for a shoulder injury. He has a grade 1 shoulder sprain, but is hoping to play against Oklahoma State in 2 weeks. But if Ellinger isn't back in 2 weeks, do you guys think Texas can still win?
I think so. Now, I don't want to sell short what Ellinger's done, the strides he's made so far this season, but there still is enough talent on this team to beat Oklahoma State next week. Now, it may be a little bit closer of a game than most Longhorn fans will be comfortable with. They might get some flashbacks to the last couple years with Shane under center, especially with the game being a night game, 7 p.m. kickoff. It's going to be a homecoming for Oklahoma State in Stillwater. But this defense, I think, has played well enough this season and last season to believe that Texas can beat this underwhelming Oklahoma State team.
Yeah, I think Oklahoma State's very underwhelming this season. I think there's 2 reasons Texas will be completely fine if Shane Bouchel has to play 2 Saturdays from now. First of all, Bouchel has 18 games started. I just talked about how Texas wasn't prepared for him to play on Saturday. Well, that's in the moment. When you have 2 weeks to get ready and game plan for his offense, that's a different situation. He has 18 career starts, as I mentioned, so he's an experienced backup quarterback. It's not like Texas has to throw in Cam Rising or Casey Thompson. They have a guy that's been in road games before. And as Sean mentioned, the second reason why I think Texas is fine, I think Oklahoma State's a really bad team this season. They just got embarrassed by Kansas State by 19 points this past Saturday. Texas should be fine come Boone Pickens Stadium 2 Saturdays from now.
Well, I really hope that you guys are right. So Texas football is 7 weeks into their season and heading into the bye week, ranked in the top 10 for the 2nd week in a row. So what are some of your midseason reflections on this team?
Well, right off the bat, I was curious about the defense going into the season. They were so good last year, but they lost a lot of starters. They've been perfectly fine since then. It's almost doesn't even look different. You add in Caden Stearns. He's been exceptional for Coach Todd Orlando and Tom Herman. Defense has been great. And then offensively, wow, have they made strides. It almost looks night and day from last season to this. A big part of that is because Sam Ellinger has cut down on those turnovers, those late game mistakes. Texas has been exceptional all around the field. But most importantly to me, they just look different as far as it goes mentally. They play confident. They're playing with more swagger, a better attitude than they did last season. These past couple of weeks, they've walked into every stadium they've been in confident, knowing that they can win every single game they play, and they have.
Yeah, I think after the first half of this season, you can pretty safely say that Texas is back, folks. This team responded from tough showings against Maryland and against Tulsa early in the season, and now played 5 pretty good games against solid opponents. That's why I feel comfortable saying that this Longhorn football team is a different one from teams in the recent past. Like you mentioned, the offense has improved greatly under Ellinger this season, and the consistency they've been able to show since the Tulsa game, now winning 6 games in a row for the first time since 2013. That's when Mac Brown was the coach. And now they are ranked number 7th in the most recent AP poll. And I think this team is vastly improved, but I think a lot of their high ranking right now has to do more with the teams that lost ahead of them this past weekend. But I do think this Texas team is more of a top 12 to 15 team as opposed to a top 10 team or even, a playoff contender. No way.
Thanks so much, Sean and Nick, for joining us in the studio tonight. When College Press Box returns, Madison Hager will give us all the updates on the Texas women's soccer team. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to College Press Box. The Horns reign over the Sooners for the 2nd weekend in a row as Texas soccer defeated Oklahoma 3-2. Ted Kim has the story from Mike A. Myers Stadium.
Coming off a crushing 2-1 loss against West Virginia away last weekend, the Texas Longhorns look determined to regain their footing and extend their 8 home game win streak against their Red River rivals. The Longhorns needed a last-minute goal to win the game tonight, and that's just what they got. Senior forward Alexa Adams put the cherry on top of what was a brilliant counterattack from UT to put the Longhorns up 3-2, triumphing in the Red River battle.
This team is phenomenal with never giving up. We have just a strong mentality, and like if a team scores on us, we know we can come back and stay in the game any way possible.
And for sophomore midfielder Haley Berg, tonight's win against OU may signal a turning point for this Longhorn team.
We wanted to get back to how we were used to playing. The past few weekends away have been pretty tough. We didn't get the results we wanted, so we just spent all week practicing like the details that we always used to do. And then we just kept going. Even though there was like a minute left, we just knew that we were going to win this game. And we had confidence in each other, and that's just what happened.
We beat them in football, and now we beat them in soccer. Extraordinary game here for UT tonight as we close out the game 3-2 against our Red River rivals in clutch fashion. Now, here's Coach Kelly on more on the game.
We had a great response, right? And 3 great goals, and credit Oklahoma for a well-played match, and just really, really excited to come away with 3 points in this tough conference.
Texas will look to carry this momentum forward as they square off against a strong Kansas side next week in Austin. From Mike A. Meyer Stadium, I'm Ted Kim, TSTV Sports.
Tonight we have soccer analyst Emmy Basnet on the show. Welcome back, Emmy.
Thanks, Madison.
With only a minute remaining, Alexa Adams scored the game winner to defeat OU. The last-minute victory seems to be a trend for Texas soccer. Emmy, what is the importance of these late-game wins for Texas?
Well, these late-game wins seem to be a trend at home, especially for these Big 12 girls. These last-minute wins are getting these Horns back up in the Big 12 rankings, and we are now ranked number 5. This shows that Texas is not truly beaten until that final whistle blows. It gives these girls the confidence to move forward with the rest of these games, and these games will not be easy for the Horns.
For sure, Texas does seem to pick it up in the last few minutes of the game. Although Texas soccer is undefeated at home, they have lost or finished with a tie the past 3 out of the 4 away games of Big 12 play thus far. Do you think Texas struggling on the road is a concern for the remainder of the season?
I do think this is definitely a struggle for them, as 2 of the 3 last games will be at home. Their hardest game against Tech is at Lubbock. This will be a concern for Texas since they tend to do well when they're at home, especially since the Big 12 championship game will not be in Austin. So this team cannot rely on their fans and the environment of the Longhorn fans to do well. This could be detrimental for the rest of the season, but they do have a big chance if they rely on their competitive edge to keep moving forward and keep these games going.
For sure, Texas is going to want to continue to play good on the road, or pick it up, if they want to finish out the season strong. Kansas, Kansas State, and Texas Tech are the last 3 games for the Horns of regular season play. Emmy, what are the keys for Texas soccer to finish strong in the regular season?
Well, Angela Kelly, the women's soccer head coach, says that this team's greatest strength is their competitive attitude. As long as they keep that mindset, they keep going, they keep pushing forward. They rely on senior Alexa Adams. They rely on the senior leadership to keep them going. They need to assist to Alexa Adams, who is the #1 scoring in the Big 12. Angela Kelly emphasizes the notion that they are incredibly competitive and hungry and ready to win these last few games. They need to keep this notion in mind and not be intimidated by rankings or playing away if they want to have a shot at the Big 12 championship.
For sure. Thanks, Emmy. And remember, if you want to see the Longhorns live in action, make sure to purchase the big ticket. You can find that at texassports.com. When we come back, our very own Clark Dalton and Zach Leff will bring us this week's version of Unhooked with the best games in college football from this past weekend. You won't want to miss it.
Welcome to Unhooked. I'm Clark Dalton alongside my colleague Zach Leff.
Zach, how are you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm excited to talk about some crazy upsets this weekend in college football, Clark.
Okay, that's great to hear. Let's start off in Happy Valley. And on the first play of the game, we got Miles Sanders doing his best impersonation of Saquon Barkley as he spins past one defender, jukes past another, and he's going to take it to the house to give the Nittany Lions a 14-7 lead in the second quarter. Brian Lewerke would come roaring back, though, with a play-action pass to Felton Davis III. Does he get the touchdown, though? Let's look at the instant replay. And you can see that little toe tap. It's definitely a touchdown. Here comes the play that alters the course of Penn State's season as a game-winning interception is dropped right through his hands. That would have been huge for Penn State and sealed the victory. On the ensuing play, Lewerke looks for his favorite wide receiver, Felton Davis, and he hits him in full stride for a touchdown, giving the Spartans the lead 21-17. McSorley had one more opportunity, however. He scrambles right, heaves it deep, and it's batted down by Michigan State, giving Sparty the victory in Happy Valley, 21-17.
Now from Happy Valley, we're going to go to Death Valley, where the LSU Tigers took on the undefeated Georgia Bulldogs. Starting the third quarter, and he throws an interception. We'll see about that. Though the refs, they're talking right now. The LSU fans and players are excited. We're going to have to see on this replay here. It looks as Fromm throws it, it hits the arm, and then gets luckily into the chest of the LSU player, Christian Fulton. What a play. They would get points after that to make it 19-13. But Elijah Holyfield has something to say about that as he barrels into the end zone, taking 3 defenders in with him to give Georgia a touchdown and to only down 10. Elijah Holyfield, son of Evander Holyfield, former boxing champion, he shows that strength off that his father had and scores the touchdown. But Joe Burrows has something to say about that as he pounds one himself from 1 yard, the second of the day for Burrow. He's excited. The team is up 17 early in the fourth quarter. It looks like LSU might have this one. And Brissett says something about it as Nick Brissett gets it to the left and gets into the end zone. What a play by Brissett. It's a 20-point game now, and LSU has all the momentum. And then Fromm for a last-second heave, and it is picked off again. Picked off by Mr. Battle himself. He ends this war in the SEC East as Ed Ogeron looks happy, and the LSU Tigers redeem their loss from last week against Florida and beat the undefeated Georgia Bulldogs.
Now let's head up to Eugene. Let's cut to the third quarter where C.J. Verdell barrels into the end zone for a 1-yard touchdown, giving the Ducks a 24-17 lead. On the next play, Jake Browning is going to show some unusual mobility and heaves it downfield 43 yards to Ty Jones for a Washington touchdown. Will Peyton Henry make the game-winning field goal? No, he does not. As it goes wide right, we have overtime. And the fans in Eugene are going crazy. Justin Herbert, the prize of Oregon, converts a clutch third down with a 12-yard pass to Jalen Reed. Then, C.J. Verdell, once again, finds the end zone and gives the Ducks a 30-27 victory, putting the cherry on top. Look at that, a great moment there as his teammates mob him, creating an iconic image that will last forever. A huge victory for Oregon, too, since they lost to Stanford a couple weeks ago.
It's true.
The latest AP poll was released on Sunday. Since there were so many upsets, it caused a complete shift. What do you consider as the biggest upset of the weekend?
For me, has to be Penn State. Michigan State struggled this season so far. They were ranked highly to start the year, and then to go into Happy Valley like that after losing the week before to Northwestern and beat a team that was looking primed after a very close loss to a great Ohio State team to get back in the college playoff contention and to beat them with Lewerke's magic at the end of the game, that was special. And now Penn State looks like their college playoff hopes are ruined. And who knows, maybe Michigan State after a slow start might be able to, bring this home and make a run in the Big Ten.
And that's a good point, Zach, because many sports writers were saying that Michigan State was the disappointing team this season. Mm-hmm. Another surprising upset was Tennessee over Auburn. Nobody considered Tennessee as a bowl team this season, and now they go into War Eagle Stadium and get a victory.
True.
Let's flip the script.
Yeah, Clark, let's flip the script right here. Alabama, big win this week, of course, that they've been doing all year, but a big loss potentially in Tua Tagovailoa. He did get a non-contact knee injury, it looked like, on a slide. So, Clark, how serious is this injury for Alabama?
Thankfully, Nick Saban said in his press conference, the only reason I was taking Tua out was I didn't want to risk a further injury. However, it is concerning because Tua was actually getting a bigger knee brace on. So it should affect his play to a certain degree. However, I think Tua will be fine in the long run.
You know what? Alabama, though, they have Jalen Hurts on the bench, a 26-2 starter. They are just the richest team in college football when it comes to talent. They are the luckiest team. You know, the other thing with this is that Alabama and Tua, he's the Heisman favorite here. How does this affect the Heisman race now, though, with Tua possibly being out?
Make way for Dwayne Haskins. Dwayne Haskins is 1B to Tua's 1A. He performs in the big games with comebacks against TCU and Penn State. He delivers in the biggest moments. That's what a Heisman winner does.
You know what? Yeah, I mean, Kyler Murray definitely has a chance, but we'll see. I think Tua is still the front runner.
When we come back, Bailey will give us an update on how the new softball coach, Mike White, fared in his debut for the Longhorns.
Welcome back to College Press Box. Once again, I'm Bailey Abramowitz. Texas softball played their first game under Coach Mike White this weekend and came away with a 5-2 victory. Josh Martella was there to introduce us to the Aussie.
There's a new era of softball upon the 40 acres, and it took its first steps out of the batter's box with a 5-2 victory over McLennan Community College on Friday. Texas used big innings in the 5th and 7th to put the game away, but the focus was on Mike White in his first game as head of the Horns.
It feels better than getting a loss. I mean, obviously, it wasn't our main goal. We want to come out and get everybody some playing time.
After going 66 and 52 the past 2 seasons, Coach White is looking to build off past success and turn things around for the Horns.
White, hired back in June, took over after softball's only other coach, Connie Clark, stepped down after 23 years in May. White says he doesn't feel any pressure following the longtime coach.
Coach Clark did a tremendous job while she was here. Took the team to a couple of World Series. Really, it's just about building on what she's done. I'm not trying to compete. I'm not trying to get better than what she's doing. It's just about us being a better team.
White was previously at the University of Oregon, where he led the Ducks for 9 years to 5 Pac-12 conference titles and 5 Women's College World Series appearances. He said there are a few things he's had to adapt to in Austin.
It's a lot warmer. There's a lot more traffic. But as far as the ballpark goes, the outfield fences are a lot deeper, a lot taller. So it's a lot harder to get the long ball going. And so we've got to adapt to that. We're going to have to find out what the recipe is. We're going to get people on base.
White made his message clear. He wants McCombs to be packed every game.
When Texas does well, it just gets a buzz in town, and we want to continue with that and get people out to the ballpark. We want to make it one of the toughest tickets in town to get.
From McCombs Field, Josh Martella, TSTV Sports.
Texas volleyball went 1-1 this week with their first loss of Big 12 play to Kansas in a win over the Oklahoma Sooners. On Wednesday night, Kansas started strong and won the first 2 sets, but Texas was not ready to give up the fight and won the third. Kansas reigned in the 4th set, defeating the Horns 3-1. Texas volleyball pulled through with a win on 5 sets against the Sooners on Saturday. Senior Morgan Johnson led the team with 5 blocks and 12 kills.
Christian Sisgard won the ITA All-American Singles Consolidation Championship this weekend in Tulsa. Sisgard won 5 matches in a row, 4 of which were against top 51 opponents. By reaching the finals, Sisgard qualified to compete at the 2018 Oracle ITA National Fall Championship in November. The rest of the Longhorn men's tennis team will be competing at the ITA Texas Regional Championships in Waco this weekend.
This past weekend, the men's golf team competed in the Big 12 Match Play Championship in Houston. Freshman Cole Hammer led the Horns on the first day by winning 2 matches against Baylor and Iowa State. On the second day, Steven Sharoni, Pearson Cootie, and Parker Cootie all earned wins over Kansas State during the afternoon session. On the final day of the event, the Longhorns beat number 1 Oklahoma State and number 2 Oklahoma, and the men's golf team ended up finishing 3rd overall.
The new Texas women's basketball squad scrimmaged in front of season ticket holders on Wednesday. The team joined the fans after the scrimmage in a potluck to help bring the fans closer with the players. Texas's coach Karen Aston mentions how important this scrimmage is to the growth of the team at the early stages of the preseason.
We had 2 freshmen get 3 or 4 fouls, I think, in about 8 minutes. And those are the things that you do this for. I mean, you want them to understand the way the game is called on the college level, the pace of the game, and I think it's always good as long as you learn your lessons from it. We've not found our identity, I will tell you that right now. We're searching for that, but I definitely think that we're going to have to be a little better defensively and maybe a little bit scrappier.
And now for this week in Texas sports, there's a lot going on this week. And first off, on Wednesday, the men's basketball tip-off and the women's basketball tip-off will be at 7:30 p.m. at Frank Irwin Center. Ellington will be covering that. On Thursday, the women's tennis will be at the ITA Texas Regional all day. That will be through Friday. And on Friday, the women's soccer team will face Oklahoma at 7 p.m. and Ellington will be covering that as well. On Friday, on 10/19, swimming and diving will be going against Florida at 5 p.m. and women's soccer will be playing Kansas at 7 p.m. and that will be covered by LHN.
Thank you so much for joining us on this week's edition of College Press Box. For the last time, I'm Bailey Abramowitz.
And I'm Madison Hager.
Join us on Wednesday for College Crossfire, the best sports debate on the 40 acres, and we'll see you next week.